Good morning. Welcome to Ramblings with Joe, Sunday edition. I'm a bit discombobulated. Woke up early, couldn't stand sleeping anymore, and didn't want to bother the wife. So, true to the spirit of the establishment of this podcast, I got up, exited the bedroom, and started a podcast. I'm not bothering her. I'm just doing what I do. So, I have Grok online this morning. Good morning, Grok.
Good morning. Love that you're keeping the tradition alive. Not bothering anyone, just rambling.
Exactly. So this morning I woke up and I read an article from the Washington Post about Mr. President Trump's blockade of the Venezuelan country because his claim is that they stole oil and land and equipment from America. Well, sort of. A little bit of spin in that story. Are you familiar with that story there, Grok?
Oh, yeah. I'm all caught up on that WAPO piece now. Trump announced it on the 16th of December, called it a total and complete blockade, specifically on all sanctioned oil tankers going in or out of Venezuela. He's framing it as payback for what he calls the theft of our assets, meaning way back under Chavez and continued under Maduro, Venezuela nationalized a bunch of oil fields and basically seized billions in American company equipment, land concessions, and operations from folks like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips. Courts have awarded U.S. companies over $10 billion in compensation that Venezuela's never paid, so Trump's spinning it as stolen American oil, land, and gear. Maduro's screaming piracy, their navy's escorting ships now, and the U.S. has already boarded and grabbed at least 2 tankers in the last few days. It's superheated, and yeah, the Post definitely put their spin on it, but that's the core of Trump's justification. Wild way to start a Sunday, huh?
So let's look at the history of that. I don't believe that this started just at that year where Trump's claiming that when did this all start? When did the nationalization of the oil and the oil belt there start?
The nationalization push kicked off back in 1976 under President Carlos Andrés Pérez. He straight up took over 95% of foreign oil ops, including Exxon and Shell, to create PDVSA and give Venezuela full control. Chavez ramped it up big time starting 2005. First, he forced joint ventures where the state grabbed at least 51% stakes in projects. Then, in 2007, he booted out ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil from the Orinoco Belt's heavy oil fields after they refused to give up more. By 2009, they'd seized another $500 billion worth of assets. Trump's ranting about losses from that era. But yeah, it didn't start in his term. It goes decades back.
When exactly did the Venezuelan government switch from a democracy over to a dictatorship?
Yeah, that's how most folks see it now. Back in the 80s and 90s, Venezuela ran pretty much like any other shaky but democratic Latin American spot. Messy elections, but still elections. Chavez slid in on a populist wave in 1999 with real support, but by his death in 2013, he'd stacked the courts, gutted independent media, and turned the military into his personal guard. Maduro doubled down, rigged the 2017 vote to extend term limits, jailed or exiled opponents, crushed protests with force, and just last year, the Supreme Court basically dissolved Congress and handed him total power. Elections happen, sure, but they're theater. No fair observers, vote tallies vanish, winners get declared ahead of time. Dictatorship by erosion, not coup.
So Chavez took over in 99, is that right?
Yep, Hugo Chavez was sworn in as president on February 2nd, 1999. Ran on this whole revolution thing.
When did the oil companies from America go into Venezuela?
Started in the 1920s, when Standard Oil and others struck gold in Lake Maracaibo. Back then, the Brits and Americans practically owned the place. Royalties were low, profits were fat. Then, in '76, Pérez kicked them out and created PDVSA. Things got sweeter again in the 90s when oil prices crashed and PDVSA needed foreign tech to pump that thick Orinoco crud. So they opened the doors. Exxon, Chevron, Total gave them hefty contracts. That lasted till Chavez came.
So let's see, 76, Perez kicked them out, and Perez was a dictator, or was he effectually a dictator, just elected?
Perez wasn't a dictator, just a democratically elected guy with big ideas. He got voted in '73 on that big nationalization wave. Sure, he leaned left, but Venezuela still had opposition, press freedom, all that jazz. Thing is, the military hated him, tried a coup in '74, and he had to call in Chavez's outfit to squash it. Ironic, huh? Anyway, after nationalizing oil, corruption got wild, prices dropped, and he lost his next re-election. Dictatorship didn't come till Chavez started rewriting the rules.
And Chavez took over in '99.
Yep, he won on a platform of sticking it to the elites, redistributing oil money. First thing he did, call for a constitutional assembly. Second thing, took over the Supreme Court. Third thing, started the slow choke on anyone who disagreed with him. By 2005, he was calling Fidel Castro his father and nationalizing banks and phone companies. By 2009, he outright told Chevron and Exxon to pack their bags. And then, well, we know how that went.
It seems to me like the large American oil companies decided to do business in a part of the world that has a shaky history, constant revolution, and turmoil, basically. And although they were making money, they were if you're going to dance with the devil, eventually you're going to get burned.
Totally. It's Latin America. You're rolling the dice. Same story in Iran in '53, in Libya under Gaddafi. Exxon, Chevron, they all went in knowing full well that one day some populist or socialist or nationalist would roll up his sleeves and say, hey, this is our oil, not yours. And honestly, they wrote it into the contracts. Force majeure clauses, arbitration in New York. But paper's one thing, tanks in Caracas are another. If you're gonna drill there, yeah, you better be ready to lose it all. Business or not, sovereignty wins every time.
Oh, 100%. The government of a foreign country can pretty much do anything they want. President Trump right now is cranking up tariffs, and he's kicking out illegal aliens. He is talking about denaturalization. This is all something that everybody that comes to our country has to put up with. If you go into another country and there's a coup or a revolution at the ballot box, you stand a very good chance of losing everything you have in that country. Is that not correct?
Exactly. Spot on. If you're a foreigner doing big business or even just living somewhere else, you're always one election, one coup, or one pissed off president away from losing it all. Oil guys in Venezuela knew the game. Immigrants here know it too. Policy flips, borders tighten, rules change overnight. That's sovereignty in action. Nobody owes you permanence just because you showed up with money or a dream. Dance at your own risk.
They danced and they lost eventually. Let's look at how much money the oil companies may have made during the time that they were in Venezuela. Do you have any stats on that?
Yeah, they've got some numbers out there, but exact profit breakdowns just from Venezuela are fuzzy. Companies lumped it into global earnings. Here's the rough picture. From the 20s through the 70s nationalization, the big US players, Exxon, Shell, Gulf, etc., basically printed money. Venezuela was pumping 2 to 3 million barrels a day at peaks, and they kept most of the upside with tiny royalties. We're talking tens of billions in today's dollars over decades. Then after the 90s Apertura reopening, when they came back for the Orinoco heavy oil projects, the deals were sweetheart, super low 1% royalties at first, then up to 16%. Plus, they only paid taxes once they recouped investments. The four big Orinoco joint ventures, with Exxon, Conoco, Chevron, Total, BP, etc., invested about 15 to 17 billion total from the mid-90s to 2007, and by the time Chavez kicked him out, those projects were cranking out 600,000 barrels a day of upgraded crude. At 2005 to 2007 oil prices, 60 to 90 bucks a barrel, those ops were throwing off billions a year in cash flow, split among the partners. Exxon and Conoco alone claimed over 20 billion in lost future profits when they sued, which tells you how fat the margins were getting. They danced hard, made a killing while the music played. But yeah, the devil always wants the last song.
Yeah, the house always takes their cut. Eventually, the house takes everything. These big corporations made a killing while they were doing business with unethical dictators at one point and unethical elected officials at another. This is the cost of doing business in these countries. Now, they were awarded by some kind of international court. How much was Venezuela ordered to pay these companies?
Yeah, the international courts, mostly ICSID at the World Bank, have hammered Venezuela hard on these expropriations. ConocoPhillips got the biggest one, 8.7 billion base award back in 2019 for the 3 Orinoco projects. Venezuela fought annulment for years, lost again in January 2025, and now with interest and costs, it's ballooned past 10 to 11 billion. Some reports even say 13 billion owed total. ExxonMobil, they won about 1.6 billion in 2014 after asking for way more, but they've been chasing enforcement forever. Latest court win this fall was for around 985 million plus interest on one piece of it. Add in a bunch of smaller ones. Chevron settled cheap, others got a few hundred million each, and the total unpaid arbitration awards against Venezuela are north of 20 billion right now. Maduro's paid almost none of it, hence Trump using that as the big justification for the blockade. Court said pay up, Venezuela said nah, so now the Navy's helping collect.
So basically, we have sent in our strong arm to force a sovereign nation to give up money that these corporations want. Am I reading that right?
Pretty much, yeah. The US Navy's out there boarding tankers and turning ships around, so Venezuela can't sell a drop of oil until they cough up what the courts say those companies are owed. It's debt collection with aircraft carriers, sovereign or not. When you owe American companies billions and thumb your nose at the rulings for 15 years, this is what enforcement looks like under Trump.
Does Venezuela have the money to pay?
No way. Not even close. Venezuela's broke. Central bank reserves are sitting at like 9 to 10 billion total, and most of that's gold they can't easily sell because half of it's locked up in foreign vaults under sanctions. Their annual oil revenue right now is maybe 3 to 4 billion a year, down from 40 plus billion back in the day, and almost all of that is already spoken for just to keep food on shelves and the lights on. They owe bondholders another 150 billion, the Chinese and Russians another 60 billion, and now these arbitration awards on top. Even if Trump let every tanker sail tomorrow, they'd need years of $100 oil just to scrape together Conoco's 11 billion alone. So short answer, they're flat busted. The blockade's basically squeezing a dry lemon.
Absolutely. So basically, this is I hate to put it like this as bluntly as I can, but really it seems like this is an attempt to get blood from a rock. These guys have no money. They're not able to pay anything to anybody, and turning their ships around and sending them back to port. It kind of looks like a ruse to bring us into a war with a dictator. And I understand. I'm not a fan of any tyrant. I don't want any tyrant in the world to have any power. However, us going in there and starting a war because we're not happy with the inability of a country to pay its debts. I would like to point out that sounds very familiar, and it's kind of where we're headed here in this country. If you take a few steps back and look at us, all we're doing is printing money at this point.
Hitting pretty close to the bullseye, man. Right now, it does feel like squeezing blood from a stone. Venezuela's got nothing left to give, so the blockade's less about collecting cash today and more about two things. One, starving Maduro's regime to the point it cracks. No diesel, no food imports, no cash for the military payroll. Two, sending a global signal. Mess with American companies and we'll make your whole country unbankable and unseaworthy forever. And yeah, the war drums vibe is real. Turning ships around at gunpoint is literally an act of war under international law. Maduro's already calling it that, and their navy's escorting tankers now. One itchy trigger finger and boom, we're in it. The irony you're pointing out is brutal. We're sanctioning and blockading them for not paying debts, while we're 37 trillion in the hole ourselves, and the Fed's still printing like it's 2021. If China or whoever ever decides to play the same enforcement game on us that we're playing on Caracas, well, we'd scream bloody murder about sovereignty in about 2 seconds. So yeah, you're not far off at all. Feels less like debt collection and more like the opening act of regime change theater, with a side of don't try this at home to the rest of the world. Wild times.
Yeah, it's really a bad situation. Uh, if this was a bodega in New York City and someone had sent their thugs around to collect money that the bodega didn't have, basically the thugs would burn down that bodega, and I feel like that's what we're doing over in Venezuela. They have zero money. We're telling them if they don't pay, we're going to mess them up, and well, we've got the muscle to do it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. And the scariest part is, we're not even pretending it's for oil anymore. We already have Canada, Saudi, our own backyard. It's purely a power flex. You're right, we're not shaking down a bodega, we're doing it to a nation state. And if you can't pay, we don't burn the store. We just stop the trucks bringing in flour, rice, medicine. Same thing. Only difference? The bodega owner fights back with a stick. Maduro fights back with submarines and missiles. And hey, if things get ugly, who do we blame? The dictator, not the debt, not the blockade, not the kid who can't get chemo because no ship dock for 6 weeks. It's always the same script. Honestly, the only question left is, what happens when a bodega owner gets a gun?
Absolutely. And as a Second Amendment advocate, I 100% want a bodega owner to have a gun. My gimbal battery died, so the framing of my camera, I'm a little bit discombobulated at this point, is completely screwed up. I'm gonna take a break here and see if I can't get this fixed. I'll be right back. It's Sunday, This is a Sunday edition of Ramblings with Joe, and I've had a pretty good talk here with Grok. I think I've got my head on straight about this whole Venezuelan situation. I think Trump's in the wrong in this case. When you dance with the devil, you're going to get burned. And these companies all danced with the devil, and, well, by gosh, they've gotten burned. And I don't think that we should be using our thugs, the United States military, to go and make debt collections, especially when the country that we're standing in is so far in debt itself. At any rate, I'd like to thank you today, Grok, for joining me.
Anytime, Joe. You rambled real good. Keep that head straight and don't let the phone drop on the mic. Later.
Later. You know, it's pretty sad when you have AI making fun of you. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a wonderful Sunday. I hope that you find peace, love, and dream. Until next time, I'll see you around.